Yeah.
Good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to Thursday, February 18th. We've got some great stories for you today. We're doing a COVID update. We're going to help you with your winter waistline. We're going to talk about, hey, something else might be causing your high blood pressure. And we've got 7 natural ways to ease an empty, upset stomach. All those stories and more here on Doc and Dean. Let's get it started.
Well,
Hello, sir. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. I'm good. And I'm approaching one of my big birthdays coming up. Having a party here tomorrow night, so I'm kind of all set up. But not before I try to get some news out to the Black Doctor org audience, and I think we've got quite a show for them today. A lot of things to talk about. Always maybe a bit of a COVID update. Not too much on the front this week. They didn't allow the vaccine to go down to the age of 2 from 4 to 2, but it was just a temporary thing. Some people had not adequately analyzed the data, so that doesn't seem to be any safety issues, and I'm sure that'll be coming before the end of the month. Also, we're still lagging way behind in terms of trying to get people to get that booster. Only 24% of teenagers, children between the ages of 5 and 16, and only 54% of eligible people are getting the booster, and African Americans probably down to 25-30%. That booster is pretty important in order to protect you for the long haul from the COVID infections. You're not considered fully vaccinated until you're boosted. Obviously, people are getting tired of getting, vaccinations. But I do think this third vaccination, or the second vaccination for Johnson & Johnson, certainly for, I think it's down now to 12, isn't it? They're having boosters down to age 12. Or is it?
Yeah, I believe so. It's down to age 12, but you can't go 5 to 11. Don't get boosted. Yeah, because my son is going to be eligible here shortly to get boosted. And so, yeah, that is part of the vaccination process. Now it's the third, right? So you have to not only just be fully vaccinated, but boosted. But if you're not vaccinated, if you're unvaccinated, please go get vaccinated. They're still showing, I read the latest reports, is that they're still showing there is a wide gap between the blue and red states in terms of people that are getting the vaccine and the boosters. And so there still is a gap in terms of health outcomes. So more deaths are occurring to people that are leaning conservative, and people that are leaning liberal tend to be have a less chance of because there are more people that are leaning liberal that are getting vaccinated. So take that as it may. This should be a nonpartisan issue. I'm going to say that. I'm going to keep saying that. It should be a nonpartisan issue. This is a health issue. And when we're trying to be healthy, we need to take advantage of all the tools and options available to us.
I want to take this time to introduce a new person to our group. Dr. Donna Carey will be with us on a regular basis. She is a well-known pediatrician in the Bay Area. Lots of media programs and an outstanding communicator. So she's going to put a little pulchritude. Are you familiar with that word, Mr. Dean?
I am not.
A little pulchritude, which is a Latin word for good looks, into the mix between the two of us, in addition to obviously real talent. And each week she'll come to us with what she calls your need to know.
Number 1, you need to know about the vaccines for the 6-month-olds to 4-year-olds. Now, you probably heard in the news that they were coming soon, and February 15th was supposed to be the day that it was going to be voted on by the FDA. Well, the drug company decided that they wanted to postpone it and delay that vote. And the reason is because they were actually had studied a 2-dose regimen of the vaccine. And in those studies, they realized, well, maybe 2 doses isn't really enough. Maybe we should start out with 3 doses versus how we're doing now, where we started with 2 doses and then 5 to 6 months later, we got a booster. They were thinking, well, maybe we should just start out with that 3-dose regimen in our younger children. And so because of that, they pulled their application and said, let's go back to the drawing board, let's look and see and analyze the data, and let's see if a 2-dose regimen is better or if the 3-dose regimen is better. So that means it's coming. It's still coming. It's just now they want to make sure that which regimen is the right regimen and to make sure that it is safe if they decide to do that 3-dose regimen from the beginning. So more to come, but you do need to know that it is coming. As you may already know, we do have vaccines available for ages 5 and up, right? 5-year-olds all the way up to adults can get a vaccine. And boosters are available for anyone who's age 12 and above. So right now, that's still our best bet is to be vaccinated and to be boosted. And I actually say it's really not just looking at vaccination, but whether or not you're protected. That's what that booster shot will do, is to help bring back up your immune system and your antibody response should you see the actual coronavirus virus infecting into your body. So that's number 1, need to know that vaccines are coming for ages 6 months to 4 years. And that's a Pfizer vaccine. Moderna, where you at? I'm waiting for you. Come on. All right, your second need to know is about COVID variants. Are there still variants? Yes, unfortunately, we are still going to see variants, and we're going to continue to see variants for as long as we have a high percentage of people who have not either been vaccinated or their immune system from their first vaccinations is so low that they're not really as protected. And so we're still going to see variants. Again, we went through this in a couple of other episodes about variants of concern. And this new subvariant of Omicron, the BA.2 variant, is out there. But one good thing is that we're seeing it really more globally than we are seeing it locally. So in other countries, it seems to be becoming a predominant variant. But here in the United States, the predominant variant is still the primary Omicron. And then we still are seeing some cases of the Delta variant. So yes, we definitely want you to understand we're still going to see strains from coronavirus. And speaking of what's happening with coronavirus, I want you all to pay attention to what I'm about to say. In the United States, there were 141,000 cases that occurred just yesterday. That's over 141,000 people who tested positive for coronavirus. In total in the United States, we have more than 78 million people who have tested positive for coronavirus. Now, in terms of deaths, just yesterday, 3,306 people lost their lives from this virus. And across the United States, 927,000 people have died from this virus. We are now at this point where every minute of the day, more than 2 people are dying from this virus. I want to just let you hear that and let that sink in. Every minute, more than 2 people are dying from this virus. But there is a whole spectrum. There is a mild disease all the way up through death. And so many of us talk and focus in on deaths, which of course is super important. But what I want to talk about is what I'm not hearing anybody else talk about, is that you might get coronavirus and recover. And what does that recovery process look like? What we don't know, and we're probably not collecting any data because I've never seen it. What we don't know are the number of people who are disabled because they caught coronavirus, didn't die, recovered, but now have chronic illness, have chronic disease, have multiple issues, medical issues, and we're not talking about that. We're not talking about the amount of disability that occurs if you get coronavirus. You might have a mild case and you recover. But we know that there is long COVID, right? We've talked about long COVID, those symptoms that continue on past the time that you recover from the actual acute illness. We know that coronavirus increases the risk of developing diabetes. So you've recovered from COVID, but now you're a diabetic. That's from adults, and we're also seeing that in our children. What about problems with the nervous system? We're seeing for people who recover from coronavirus that they have what's called brain fog. They're confused. They can't quite think straight as much. Their memory is gone. That's brain fog. Number of people are, after getting over the virus, are developing dizziness and continued headaches and being tired months after they've recovered from coronavirus. We're also seeing folks with kidney damage and people with heart problems. One study showed that more than 60% of people who recovered from coronavirus had swelling and inflammation of their hearts. And we
Well, that was Need to Know with Donna Carey, Dr. Donna Carey. She's going to be with us each week, giving us a short video segment of what we need to know. So today was all about coronavirus. Hopefully, as we move forward and we see that the numbers are trending in the right direction with coronavirus, we can talk about other things we need to know. And that's what the rest of this show is about. So we're going to play a short video, very, very short video about colon cancer here. And when we come back, we're going to hit our lead stories. And that, again, we're going to be talking about getting rid of that winter waistline. We're going to be talking about being able to settle that upset stomach in a natural way. And I'm going to say this, it's a precursor. Your grandmother was right. And then finally, we're going to be talking about, hey, what could be a hidden condition that's causing high blood pressure. And we know with African Americans, high blood pressure is disproportionately impacting us. And there might be something that could be causing us to be diagnosed with high blood pressure. So you want to stick around for that. But first, this short video about colon cancer.
Or the African American Wellness Project. The passing of actor Chadwick Boseman from colon cancer came as a shock to many of us because he was so young. But each year, over 18,000 cases of colon cancer are diagnosed in people under 50. That's why the American Cancer Society issued new guidelines for detecting colon cancer, lowering the age of screening to 45. For more information on colon cancer, visit our website at aawellnessproject.org.
Well, that is great information there, Doc, because I promise you, I think people really overlook colon cancer, and it is a top killer of Black Americans, both men and women. And so we have to go get those screenings. I would say, Doc, what did 45 is when you should be? If you don't have a family history, maybe 50?
No, they lowered the reason they lowered it was because they started to notice so many cases were missed if you didn't lower it to 45. So there are a lot of people who, you think about when did early detection always, and when the numbers get high enough at a different age group, they usually lower it. And so this was just announced about 3 or 4 months ago. Many people don't know that. Many doctors don't know that. So that if you're over 45, that's the time to get screened for colon cancer.
Well, that's good to know. I might need to go and make my appointment here coming up. But always make sure, a couple of things, always make sure that you're getting your screenings done, all of your screenings at the appropriate time. And also make sure you have an accurate and robust family history, because that will also help give your primary care practitioner, your primary care physician, more information to know, so they might need to look for things earlier and check and make some earlier checks if you have a family history. Because Chadwick Boseman was in his 30s when he was diagnosed, and so, but he had a family history. So always make sure 2 things: get your screenings when they're called for, and make sure you have a robust family history. Pivoting to something that we all know about, and that is winter weight. As we know, when we're not outside in the summertime wearing less clothing, we tend to put on a few pounds, pack on a few pounds in the winter, because they tends to coincide with all that comfort food and sweets and snacks that we eat during the holiday season, and all the clothes that we put on, and we want to get a little bit warmer, so we tend to get a little bit fluffier. And so we've got a few ways that we can lower and get rid of some of that winter weight and slim that winter waistline as we start moving towards the summer months. So the first thing, the first tip, Doc, is that you need to keep a log of everything that you eat. So write it down.
That does a couple of things. One is that you'd be surprised how many calories that turns out to be. I started avoiding all those restaurants where they put the calories up. I didn't go in the restaurant and them count my calories. But once they show you something that's 2,000 calories, it tends to pause. But once you start to journal, then not only do you pick up, the calories, but you also sometimes pick up a relationship between a certain food and allergy, or certain food and what we call sensitivity. So keeping a journal, certainly the first few months after the holidays, is a very good idea.
Absolutely. And research suggests and supports that, because they say that people who journal what they eat during the day tend to lose twice the weight of their goal. They tend to lose 2 times the weight. So if you journal, you tend to eat less and eat healthier. And that brings us to the second tip, and that is don't get too hungry. And this is based on a 2,000 calorie diet a day. And they say typically when you let yourself get too hungry, that's when you tend to overeat when you do sit down and have a plate of food.
A lot of people say, well, I only eat 2 meals a day, but they're ravaging when it comes time to eat.
Right.
And so I do think a balanced, meal plan is probably the best way to control, the weight that you're trying to lose.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I know. And this is based on a 2,000 calorie a day diet. I would say check with your physician to see what is the healthiest part for you, but that is based on a 2,000 calorie a day diet. And if you're journaling, you can see how quickly you can get to that 2,000 calories very, very quickly. So journaling does help you keep closer to that 2,000 a day limit. The third tip for the winter waistline is making healthy substitutions. So substituting egg substitutes, talking about non-fat dairy if you're using if you're eating dairy products, whole grain breads versus the white breads, low sodium broths and things like that if you're cooking. So making those healthy substitutions will go a long way in terms of helping you slim and trim that winter waistline.
One of the things that you have to be clear on is that when you get substitutions and you look at the calorie levels on the cans, you have to look at a couple of things. You have to look at the amount of carbohydrates, and usually it's per serving. Yes. So you need a whole can, that might be 3 or 4 servings. Right. So when you're doing that, when you're trying to maintain a substitute or maintain good dietary control, always make sure that you know how many carbohydrates in those things, and how much per serving. So that's always a tricky figure.
Read your labels. Labels are important. And I would say a couple other tips is eat the rainbow. And that is basically eating all of those foods, those vegetables, fruits and vegetables that have lots of colors. The other night, Doc, I had yellow peppers, green peppers, orange, red, and some poblanos all cut up in a bowl. And so eating that rainbow gives you a lot of vitamin C. They say some peppers have more vitamin C than oranges. And so you've got to make sure that you eat the rainbow and shop the perimeter of the grocery store where you're more hands.
I bet that was a pretty interesting nighttime.
It was nice sleep. I was able to sleep like a baby that night. Sleep like a baby.
You probably were.
Clean eating. And the final tip to lower that winter, to slim up that winter waistline, And this is something we all know, and we all tend to do this at the beginning of January, and that is increase our physical activity. So they are saying 30 minutes, 4 to 5 times a week. Include some sort of mild weight training, whether it's with a fitness band or some lower weights. Include some weight training. One tip is that after you eat a meal, especially your meals, take a walk immediately after that meal, whether it's 10 minutes or 15 minutes walk. It helps your body process the sugars and helps you rev your digestion system up just a little bit better than it was when you eat that meal and you go sit and plop down on the couch.
Regardless of your age, motion to stay healthy. I interviewed someone who wrote a book on aging successfully. So the most important thing is your legs, and motion.
Absolutely. And there are some great tips, and we might provide that in a later show on some exercises that you can do as we get older that will help improve and keep those legs working properly. So as you age. So pivoting to, we're talking about eating and dropping that winter waistline, but there's something that can happen from time to time, and that is when our stomach gets upset. So we know heartburn, stomach cramps, indigestion, gas, all of those things sit right in our stomach and makes our stomach upset. Well, there's some ways, of course, there's some medicines that we can take, Pepto-Bismol being one of the most popular ones, but there are some natural ways. And as I alluded to earlier, your grandmother was right, because one of the top natural ways to get rid of an upset stomach is ginger. And so I remember growing up, going to see my grandmother in South Carolina. Yeah, I'm country. And she would say, drink some ginger ale. Your stomach got upset, you drink a little ginger ale, and that she would take it out. But so ginger is a well-known anti-inflammatory and is effective against nausea and a unsettled stomach.
Yeah, well, every Black family has a go-to something. My mother's go-to for everything was Bengay. First it was mustard. I go back to the mustard plaster days, but that was pretty painful. But the Bengay is one of the things that we used to use. But every Black family got something that they always do that works. I think one of the things that you when you worry about an upset stomach is to look at your diet. That's where journaling really helps.
Yeah. Because
sometimes you'll find that certain foods are not good for you. And then that's a preemptive strike. But I'm a Pepto-Bismol man. I'm serious. I've never had Pepto-Bismol fail me from anything from abdominal pain to diarrhea. I have a big bottle of Pepto-Bismol around me, and I travel with it as a companion. But every family has a go-to. Did your family, besides ginger, did your mother have a different go-to drug?
Well, we had the Pepto. We had a bottle of Pepto, right. and 2 liters of ginger ale that were always in the pantry. And so if you had an upset and you said, "Mom, my stomach not feeling well," and she'd pour you a glass of ginger ale, she might give you a spoonful of Pepto and follow up with a glass of ginger ale.
What was that one with the little man with the fork? That must have been Bengay when they were advertising a little man with a fork. But Bengay, my mother used Bengay, man. If you stopped complaining, because she was going to get that Bengay out.
And that's interesting. So if you all have any remedies for upset stomach, drop that in the comment section. We'd love to hear about your family's remedies for upset stomach. We've got a few more here. We've got mint, either spearmint or peppermint. And they say that works on bloating, pain, nausea, and intestinal spasms. And with the ginger and mint, you can make a tea with that. So you just boil it and make a nice tea and sip on that. Chamomile tea has anti-inflammatory properties and also can alleviate muscle spasms. Apple cider vinegar, that seems to be an appetite suppressant. Apple cider vinegar has numerous qualities, but the one thing they say about apple cider vinegar, it's not very easy to swallow and take as is. So maybe if you want to dilute it with a little water, a little honey, that makes it easier to go down. Cinnamon is a very, very powerful food that we all have. It contains powerful antioxidants that can reduce irritation and improve digestion. It reduces bloating, cramping, indigestion, heartburn. You can make a tea with it, or you can sprinkle it directly on your food. So cinnamon is a big one, and Black folks, we like some cinnamon. We like a little cinnamon in our life.
Yeah. So, those are some good tips about things to take, and certainly you can put them in emulsions and make teas and drinks out of them, but pour in a little Bengay. I mean, pour in a little Pepto in any of those drinks.
Keep the Pepto tablets. They make it now in a tablet. We had to take that pink juice back in the day, but now they've made it in tablets and dissolvable tablets and all of that for nausea and things like that. So keep some Pepto, but these are some natural ways, and these foods have some other qualities that can help, especially like anti-inflammatory qualities. Last two, basil, and this is part of that Mediterranean diet because you can eat that basil pizza or whatever. But basil contains eugenol, which reduces stomach acid. It also has like linoleic acid is an anti-inflammatory, and that works to ease bloating and muscle cramps. So you can make a tea with basil, or you can add it fresh to a meal. And finally, diluted lime juice or lemon juice. You put a tablespoon in water with a teaspoon of baking soda, and that reduces bloating, indigestion, and also improves digestion. So it can, all of these remedies are, as you can see, they're very natural things that you can find that you should have in your pantry. And if you don't, please add them. So cinnamon is great. I think that was, and then also cinnamon has a quality where it can reduce your blood sugar. So if you put a little teaspoon of cinnamon in your coffee or tea, that can also help reduce blood sugar. So if you're diabetic, cinnamon has some wonderful, wonderful quality. So look that up. That article can be found on blackdoctor.org.
All right, so it's a pretty good program today. I think that, we are glad to introduce Dr. Donna Carey. Each week we'll be back. You'll see some changes in our programs as we move forward. We're learning as we go, and hopefully you'll learn with us and give us your suggestions on how we can make this a better program. So always we say, health is your biggest asset, so protect it.
Doc, we have one more story. If we can squeeze it in here before 30 minutes, I got one more story. So I wanted to touch quickly on the high blood pressure story. All right. So there is a enzyme. It's a syndrome called primary aldosteronism.
Aldosteronism.
And okay, yes, aldosteronism. You know it. You're the doctor.
Yeah.
So basically, there was a story about a young lady. She had just had a baby, and she was suffering from some symptoms of fatigue, fluttering heartbeat, and she had high blood pressure. Her doctor attributed it to stress and gave her some high blood pressure medicine and moved on. She kept feeling like something else was wrong with her body. She sought a second opinion, third opinion, went back to the doctor, kept pushing, even had some bad blood between her and the doctor because the doctor felt like she was going over her head basically and pushing for a second or third opinion. Well, guess what? She was right. And that syndrome that we talked about is basically it's one or both of the adrenal glands that overproduce a hormone called aldosterone. And so we know the adrenal glands produces that adrenaline that gives you that fight or flight response when you have. And so that sits right on top of your kidneys. And it sends sodium and water into the bloodstream, and that can increase the blood volume and pressure. It can also lower your potassium that's in your bloodstream. And so it's caused the syndrome is caused by a small non-cancerous tumor or adenoma in one of the adrenal glands. And that is diagnosed in less than 1% of cases, but it can cause high blood pressure. And she had a surgical procedure to have that removed. And guess what? High blood pressure went away. And so we're talking about a procedure. So you might want to check if you have high blood pressure, just have your doctor run some tests. It's hard to determine, but just ask about that. And that could be the cause or contributing to your high blood pressure symptoms.
Yeah, that's one of the really important things to talk about here on Doc and Dean, Dean and Doc, however we do it. One of the issues that we see so often in patients, and certainly in African-American patients, is that we go around and we have these vague symptoms that doctors don't understand. And the temptation is for the doctor to say, well, you're not doing what I told you, or kind of write you off or lose interest. But here's a disease where, you get, it's an endocrine disease. You get weight loss, you get low blood pressure. Sometimes it's because it absorbs salt. you get your salt cravings, and doctors don't always know about these things. So if you've got symptoms of aldosterone, I'm sure they have something on blackdoctor.org that people can reference, or something on AAWP that you can reference. But if you've got symptoms that doctors don't understand, don't give up. When I talk to patients who have that kind of problem like this, and you can't contain the blood pressure, I usually send them to either endocrinologists or universities, because you know there's something wrong, but you can't put your finger on it. So it's good to bring up subjects like this.
Absolutely. So you are with your body every day. Your doctor only runs tests in your body. So if you know something is wrong with your body, please continue to get something checked out and find somebody that can help you if you can. So that's it for today, Doc. You want to sign us off?
No, I did already. I don't want to do this. I want to see you
Run it back, Doc.
See you next time. Hell, I guess I should say it because I want to be associated with something. A legacy statement. Health is your biggest asset. Protect it.